Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rollout. I'm Lindsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
We weren't going to do this, like we had other episodes planned, but then we saw the first two episodes of Hawkeye and Disney Plus, and we're like, we got to talk about this.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to be covering the first two episodes of Disney Plus. Obviously, by the time you watch this, 3 episodes will be out, but the first 2 episodes, from what we hear rumor mill wise, are going to be the longest in the season because Disney has put out announcements that the next couple episodes are going to be significantly shorter. So, this will also give you time to catch up if you haven't watched it and dive in. But a lot happened in these 2 episodes. So I feel like, we've got plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great starting point. I am glad that they did drop 2. That was really probably very smart of them for us to kind of just like get a feel for it.
Yeah, and there was a lot to establish in those first 2 episodes because, while they are true to the comics, they did start off the series with Kate and Hawkeye not knowing each other. So we really had to lay the groundwork for that.
Right. And I mean, with the other shows, like, yes, it's usually a 2 superhero dynamic.
Right.
With, but we know both of those superheroes.
Right.
Whereas we're just introducing Kate to audiences that might not know her. So first of all, let's get this out of the way. There will be spoilers.
Yep.
And then also we will be talking a bit about some controversy that has been coming out about copyright.
Which if you're watching us and not listening to us, Genevieve, your backdrop is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because if you look at one of the covers for one of the Hawkeye comic books, it's almost exactly identical to that.
It's almost exactly identical. Let me see. I have it here somewhere. But yes, unfortunately, Disney has kind of has a backlog of artists from Marvel Comics that either they're writers or artists that they have not paid for their work, or they have just taken their work and used it for their own promo images, and it's really kind of embarrassing and sad.
So this was David Aja, who we're talking about. He was the artist on the Hawkeye comic series, which was of course written by Matt Fraction. And if you just look at not only the cover art, but the color schemes, everything,
all the way down to the font,
the backgrounds, the layouts, the feel of the whole show. It's his art. It's his art. And yes, he gets no credit for it. He's obviously not getting paid for it. And the internets are not too happy about this.
Here is the art. Here's the cover.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a good example. The arrow, and you can see even the text, the font is exactly the same, typography in the comic. And
here's all that. I know this is probably like very disorienting, but like, yeah,
you can Google it, obviously. If you
can Google it, you can see. But I mean, obviously the inspiration was there. The Fraction comic run is, what this is based off of, mostly the TV show. And it is actually one of my favorite Marvel comic runs ever done, especially for Hawkeye. I think it's the best Hawkeye series that has ever come out, if not in, the 21st century. Right. But I absolutely love this comic run, and it is just kind of very disappointing to see that Disney is not even going to credit the artists that have created what they are basically adapting, because that's what this is. They're adapting the Aja Fraction comic series, and they mention it nowhere.
No, and it's not like they're loosely basing it off of it. Like, they are taking chunks and chunks of the storylines and the character development that was in the comic run and using it in the series. It's like Loki was an original thing. WandaVision, original thing. we'll see what happens with She-Hulk and Miss Marvel. We'll see how much, well, we already know Miss Marvel from, character art that's been leaked. They're changing up her powers and everything. So we'll see how much they're going to pull from those runs. But so far with their characters, they've taken a lot of license with changing up their established characters within the MCU.
Right.
This one, not so much. This one is about as true to the comics, I think, of any of the MCU characters that we've seen.
Yeah, they very much grabbed from the comic the most for this one. I mean, like, I know that with whatchamacallit, with the Scarlet Witch, they followed the they followed the House of M, but there was a lot of differences and nuances and whereas this one, they're literally taking, like, it's almost weird in a way. I mean, it's not exactly like how they did Watchmen, where it's like panel for panel. Of course it's not.
Yeah.
But there are places where I could see, like, they had grabbed out of the comic book and then, redone some of the panels from the comic book and, like, some of the lines straight out of the comic book.
Right.
And so, yeah. So now that that's out of the way, I just wish that Disney has this kind of weird thing where they don't really want to pay the people from which that they're grabbing from. I mean, they've had a history of this since the very beginning. They took fairy tales and properties that were, they didn't have to pay for them. They were fair use properties. And so they started out not paying royalties or anything to the creators of these works in order to make their films. And they just seem to kind of go on this trend of wanting to pay as few people as humanly possible, but still adapt work that isn't their own.
Right. Which they have more money than almost any other studio out there. So I'm very confused as to why this is. And the other thing is this Fraction was a consulting producer on the series. So he obviously was involved in the process, had some influence on it. So I'm like, well, did they just throw his name on there, for funsies? Because why would you put him on as a consulting producer and then not give credit where credit is due? I mean, that was very confusing to me.
Right. I mean, as far as I know, not a penny has been paid to Aja.
At least according to what he has said on social media. Yeah.
Right. I mean, Aja himself in a tweet had said it.
Yeah, exactly. So and I think that he's even dropped names of other people that this has happened to. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of other artists out there that, have spoken up. There are people that are, joining a petition to, fight for royalties and back pay from things that Disney has taken from them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, obviously, we will say one of the big differences is Clint has a family in this version. From what I've seen so far, they seem to be nothing more than plot devices.
Right, you can't write them out.
Because in the comics, obviously he was single and was kind of in his studio apartment or whatever. So they did give him the family in this, but I've had this issue with his family since they were introduced in. She was a Winter Soldier. I don't even know when she was first introduced. I'm like, they serve no purpose. His wife
Avengers
literally
2.
is a prop. She's a plot device.
It's Avengers 2.
Oh, it's Avengers 2. Yeah.
Right. They were literally the safe house. They were literally a plot device.
And so far that's what they seem to be in this. It's like Clint's got to get home for Christmas with the fam.
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason they're here. That's the only reason they're here. And his wife.
Lindsay, they were here so that we could immediately get them out of the film. They're like Captain Marvel.
Right. But we had to
showed up so that they're still around.
Yes.
And then we had to yeet them out of the film as fast as possible.
Right.
They're like, so this Clint Barton, like for me, this Clint Barton really seems like they just took Clint from the comic.
Yeah.
And then they took John McClane and just kind of
put them together,
mashed them together because he's got to get home to his family for Christmas. However, he's got to get through, like, he's got to be able to survive Christmas before he can go to his family. So yeah, that's kind of what I got.
Yeah, but all that aside, it was a pretty fun show. I mean, I won't lie, Kate Bishop, she steals the show. She steals every scene that she is in. You know, I was very impressed with Hailee Steinfeld's performance. I do think they obviously were going to continue getting more character development for her, because so far her character development has been pretty one-dimensional. Oh, she's an amazing martial artist. Oh, she's an amazing archer. Okay, well, let's get some of the emotional stuff, because they've got the spoiled witch kid thing done. And the fact that she just saw Hawkeye during the events of Avengers, and that's what inspired her to be like this, I feel like there's got to be more depth to that. But as a performer, Hailee is doing a superb job in this role.
Yeah, no, she fucking slaps. I really enjoy her in this role. And I mean, she is just like, she's basically a 1-for-1 to Kate in the comics. And I think that the casting was really great. I'm really interested to see if later they have her go to the West Coast and kind of shore up the West Coast Avengers like she does in the comics.
We keep thinking that that's going to happen based on the fact that we have Scarlet Witch's kids. Yeah. Potentially with the multiverse happening, like they still exist. And now we've got the announcement that we're going to be getting Tom Holland's Spider-Man for another 3 movies. Now he's not usually with the West Coast Avengers, but judging by his age and, that could be a way that they're trying to do this as well.
Right.
And again,
I mean, they have him traveling a lot. That's for sure.
So if we're getting Scarlet Witch's kids and we're getting Kate Bishop, then shenanigans could be ensuing pretty soon.
Right. I mean, with Tony gone, you need somebody on the West Coast.
Right.
So hopefully we'll see. But yeah, no, I thought it was interesting how they introduced the villain where it was just very strange where the mom's just like, oh yeah, and I didn't have time to tell you, but this guy's gonna be your new dad. And you're like,
right. And it's like, he's even got the evil mustache. Like as soon as he came on, as soon as the camera showed him, I was like, oh, he's the bad guy. Like he just has that quintessential like Jack Lemmon in The Great Race look. It's just like the twirling mustache. He's got his hint of accent.
It's
apparently he's a ninja with a samurai sword, or
he's supposed to be the swordsman. But
But they didn't even try to hide it.
I also like the fact that exactly, like you said, that dude's the villain the minute he showed up on screen, and I like the fact that exactly where it's gonna go. Like it is so Die Hard, where you know exactly where this thing is gonna go. You know who's the villain. There are going to be no like surprises, really. I did really enjoy that they stuck with Mover Bro, the tracksuit mafia.
Right. And that also added some levity to it too, which was nice.
They definitely committed to that. I guess the dog kicking villain is now the top tier, most hated villain of all the MCU, like over Thanos, over Ultron. Mm-hmm. I guess he's just like number 1 on the list. I'm like, yeah. He kicked a fucking dog, dude.
I mean,
of course he is.
I believe we brought this up in another episode. I don't even remember which one anymore, but if you've seen John Wick, we all know what happens when you kick a puppy.
Right, exactly.
What happens? So yeah.
So, I mean, they have a ton of grabs and nods that I was looking for, like, as we were saying, Mover Bro and Pizza Dog, and I think like it's and the fact that Hawkeye also has his hearing aid as well.
Yes. Which was interesting that now obviously they gave a different explanation for his hearing loss in the TV show than they did in the comics.
Right.
but I don't necessarily disagree with why they did that. I mean, yes, it was able to show flashbacks for all of the movies that he's been in, and it's just as plausible. And so that's not a huge, you know, a huge alteration, but it was something they did change.
Right. I think it was a good comedic beat too. Like I
Yeah.
like those nice like little whatchamacallit, little quick editing there. And I
Yeah.
thought that was fun because I mean like it makes sense. He's supposed to be I mean, essentially he is John McClane. He's supposed to be like the normal everyday guy, but with this like
Right.
set of skills that makes him, you know, unique and stand out. I mean, they kind of get into whether or not he's a mutant in the comics, but it's neither here nor there. We're not even discussing that in the MCU, considering, you know, Disney's history of not owning mutants. So.
And they had that fun little exchange with Kate and Clint where she's like, you got a branding issue, dude. We got to work on your branding. Like, you can't be the understated, like, because nobody knows who you are, you know? So that was a really funny exchange, which, you know, does go to, it's like, well, yeah, I guess the other Avengers do kind of stand out a lot more than he does.
Right. I mean, and that's the whole joke is that like you got like all of these like gods and super soldiers, and then you got the normal guy. And I mean, Natasha was looped into there for a couple of movies until she really just started to stand out on her own. I mean, she really was just kind of, you know, like catsuit girl until they actually gave her personality and something to do other than, you know, kick and shoot things.
Right.
So, I mean, but Clint, like, other than the family that they gave him and the weird explanation as to why he and Natasha are not in like a kind of romance thing like they were in the comics, but they totally were going for that in the first Avengers, and yet they just completely dropped it.
Yeah. Now, one thing that, you know, another thing that did change was that for whatever reason, Marvel decided to introduce Echo or Maya Lopez. They decided to introduce her character in the Hawkeye series when she is traditionally part of the Daredevil universe.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you know, we're getting rumors that Daredevil's coming back into the MCU, but we know she's getting her spinoff series. So I'm just wondering if it was a timing issue that they're like, oh no, we got to introduce Echo before her spinoff. And we don't know if Daredevil's going to be in production before that. So they threw her in here. It worked. You know, we had Clint being hard of hearing, and we have her. She, for those of you who don't know, Echo is a deaf character. So I was very interested to see her appearance.
Yeah. I think that they are being overly cautious about what type of deadlines that they can and cannot meet. You know, because I mean, it's still a pandemic, and
we are getting rumors because we already know Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is coming back. There's rumors he's going to be in Spider-Man. I'm wondering, are they going to throw him into Hawkeye? I mean,
maybe. That could be. They could be doing, I don't know, they might be doing a Daredevil link into Hawkeye. That's a little bit more.
I mean, this is all the speculation,
deeper.
You know, sphere that we got going on here, but yeah.
Right. It just seems like that they are always trying to do multiple things at once in these TV shows. I mean, and Disney is also guilty for doing that, like overly guilty, I would say, for doing that with The Mandalorian, where you've got like 6 cameos in one episode, and you're like, well, can't wait to see all of these people show up in their own spinoffs.
Right. It's like they're doing all these backdoor pilots.
Exactly. Like as long as they don't fuck up on social media and say something dumb, they're going to get their spinoff. Everybody gets a spinoff.
Everybody gets a spinoff because, you know, we know from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're getting the Dora Milaje spinoff. WandaVision tied us into the multiverse, which is obviously tying us into Doctor Strange. But yeah, and now with the rumored reintroduction of the Netflix Marvel characters, you know, we're so many things. So many things are happening. So many chess pieces are moving, which Kevin Feige seems to have the MCU figured out, because Lord knows they don't know what the fuck they're doing over on the Star Wars side of Disney, because that's changing every day. We can do another show about everything that's going on with all the Star Wars announcements.
They just, like, God bless them. They just cannot figure it out.
Another series canceled.
They just cannot fucking figure their shit out. And I just really don't.
Yeah.
I don't quite know, because I mean, it is Disney, and that does surprise me that, like, they turn out content like a fucking hamburger meat grinder, you know, like, and usually a lot of people are on board with it, but with Star Wars, they just cannot seem to get their feet under them without tripping over themselves. But one thing that did surprise me to learn was that Moon Knight is coming to Disney Plus and not Hulu.
Yeah. Which seems to, I mean, and I had read an article about this, God, within the past couple of weeks, that's saying Disney is looking into having more adult content on Disney Plus. And I think it's because they realize, one, there's an audience for it, and two, they probably don't want to dump Marvel shows on Hulu, because that's going to split their viewership.
Monkey Assassin.
Yeah. And who knows what's going on with Deadpool. I mean, Deadpool's obviously going to theaters, but I mean, I think that there's some serious conversations happening right now in Disney going like,
right,
we introduce rated R content because I think it's a good idea. And the same thing, like if we're reintroducing the Defenders to the MCU, you can't sugarcoat those, or you're just going to lose. I mean, that's what made those shows so brilliant on Netflix, was that they were dark and gritty and brutal and violent, and we loved every minute of it. Iron Fist aside. So I think that
they seriously
I know, right? They seriously need to consider this. And I don't think it would be a bad move. I mean, obviously Netflix and Amazon have their child filters, you know, they've got kids.
Yeah.
So there's ways to separate it, but yeah.
I was just going to say, like, just get a filter on there and you'll be fine, I think. Yeah. Because I think they have been playing around. I mean, like, they had been playing around with other shows, like Murdoch and I just said it, Monkey Assassin.
Oh, Monkey Assassin, yeah.
Which Monkey Assassin is 100% rated R.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon. I mean, not a cartoon, it's an animated show, and it's actually really good. I quite enjoy it. But it's basically the Kill Bill of the Marvel series, of anything Marvel, and it's really, really dark.
Yeah.
But it's good, and I'm thinking that maybe this was their like testing ground of maybe what is good for Hulu, you know, if Marvel has a place on Hulu, or if Marvel is just going to have to stay within its branding on Disney Plus, which I think it would be smarter for them to go the Disney Plus route, because of the fact that that is just what people automatically think about when they're going to be searching for Marvel products.
Exactly. I mean, and if you want those people who are going to want to binge it and watch things in order and things like that, and you know, because if you're recommending one show to another show, and the thing is your Hulu audience is a different audience, right? You know, obviously, so many
not
people,
everybody has Disney, Hulu either.
Yeah, and Disney sold the bundled subscription packages, but like people were Hulu subscribers before Disney Plus even happened, and I don't think there's as much crossover as they think there is.
No, and that's probably why they were like, yeah, Moon Knight. Let's put this extremely dark,
right,
violent, I'm very curious to see what that's going to look like. Right. I mean, just we'll see if they commit. That's kind of my thing, is I'm wondering if they're going to actually like fully commit, or if they're going to just try and skirt that like PG-13 horror film rating, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you're just like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Not that we're trying to glorify violence, but there's a lot to be said for having, you know, like again, like we saw with Deadpool. Deadpool proved that you can have a box office smash that is rated R, and everyone swore, oh, it's rated R, it's not going to do great at the box office because the kids aren't going to see it, and it did fantastic at the box office.
Parents are bringing their kids to that crap.
Oh, Yeah. I mean,
they're doing it. I mean, they've always been doing it, but especially more so nowadays, now that millennials are having children, you know, that millennials already have, you know, their children and stuff, like we're taking them.
Right.
Because the parents don't want to miss out. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, Hawkeye I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think I need a little bit more to kind of go off of before I make any, you know, final judgments about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, absolutely. To see where this character arc goes. And I'm very interested to see if they're using this as a way to write Clint Barton out of the MCU for Kate Bishop to take over, a la Captain America, because again, this is the whole problem with him having a family. Because obviously in the comics, he's able, you know, he's kind of, you know, he's got this image of being like the sheriff, you know, he's there to help people. But it's like with him having this family, they're automatically setting it up that he is not going to be able to be that neighborhood vigilante. He just can't do it.
So, you know, he's a lone wolf in the comics, and you know, he's, you know, lives that very, very like stereotypical bachelor lifestyle of eating pizza every night and, you know, sitting around his apartment until, you know, he stumbles into some sort of danger or, you know, conspiracy theory or something or other, and you know, then the adventure kicks off. But this is just like, we gotta do something with this family. We gotta get rid of them as fast as we can.
Unless they decide
in the first 5 pages of the script, we need to get rid of them.
Right. So yeah, I mean, those were our thoughts on the first 2 episodes. Obviously, we got many more episodes to go, and I'm sure we will be back with our thoughts on those as well. But all in all, it's enjoyable. If you've got kids, I think the kids will like it too. The adults will like it. It's one of those shows that it's not as weirding off the beaten path as WandaVision. It's lighter than Loki. I mean, I felt like Loki had a darker, grittier feel than this.
It's a little less cerebral,
definitely. Yeah, a little less cerebral. So I feel like this could be enjoyed by many ages.
And like I said, it's the Die Hard of the MCU.
Right.
It's fine. Well, without the cursing.
Right. Yeah. Because there's not really and you know, badass female characters, both good and bad. So, you know, there's a lot to love here so far. Let's see where it goes, and hopefully it continues its upward trajectory.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, if you liked what you saw here, please give us a like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Did you like it? Did you hate it? You know, do you think that the artists need to get paid their dues? Because I do.
I do. Yeah.
But yes, we upload every Fridays at noon Pacific Standard Time, and we would love to see you back. I hope you like this show, and we'll see you again for the next one. All right. Bye, guys.